I wake out of a deep sleep, internal alarm sounding. What time is it? 1 o'clock. Then I remember. I throw back the sheet and creep to the window to see if my Honda is in the driveway. It isn't. Brian isn't home. I slide back between the sheets and remind myself, Brian isn't a child. He's 18, a senior in high school. He lives with his dad in Colorado during the school year, and we get visitation. And this time we're struggling with realistic boundaries. When I was his age, my curfew was midnight. Before he left, I'd asked him what time he'd be home. When he said 1 o'clock, I was relieved. David, his stepdad, gave him quarters and told him to call if he'd be late. He'll be pulling in any minute. When I check the clock again, it's 1:43. No Brian. Maybe he's had car trouble. Maybe he couldn't find a pay phone. Maybe he's having a good time with Melissa and they lost track of time. At 3:15, I sit up with a start and run to the window. By now, visions of Bonfire of the Vanities are flooding my imagination. I can see Brian taking a wrong turn in an unfamiliar neighborhood. Desperate hands and faces demand money. They circle his car and rock it back and forth. David, wake up. Brian isn't home. We're calling the police. David rolls over and sits up without opening his eyes. What high school kid actually comes home when he says he will? I'm sure he's fine. Don't minimize this. You just don't want to be bothered. Fine, call the police, he said, rolling back over. Just then I see a beam of light in the driveway, and in a flash I'm downstairs with David close behind. Without looking at me, Brian saunters to the sink and fills a glass with water. Do you know what time it is? The words gush out like water out of a fire hose. He glances up, turns at the clock. It's 3:20. What time did you say you'd be home? Brian is cornered, looking for an out. You agreed to call. I didn't want to wake you. I've been awake since 1 o'clock, and now I'm really wide awake. Brian's eyes dart back and forth between me and David. You're grounded. Grounded? Where did that come from? I was never grounded. My parents believed in swift and sure punishment. My dad would order me to drop my drawers and bend over. I could still hear the sound of that belt snapping like a whip as he readied it. What am I going to do now? I glance back at David. His eyes are wide in disbelief. For the next 2 weeks, you're not going anywhere. And while you're sitting in your room, maybe you can learn to tell time. Practice putting quarters into a phone. Brian freezes, the hurricane of words silencing him. Suddenly, I cry out like a wounded animal as all the fear and rage comes out, spilling as tears, and I turn to go. When we're safely upstairs, I close the door and square off with David. Why didn't you back me up? Well, you seemed angry enough for both of us. Yeah, he should have called. I lie in the dark, sobbing, until I realize that my ears are full of tears. What's that country song? I got tears in my ears from lying on my bed, crying over you. Summer visitation time is so precious, and I hate for it to end like this. What I really want to do is creep into his bedroom, and if he's really, really asleep, I want to take him in my arms and rock him back and forth, and sing the Robert Munch song. I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. As I lie in bed, I can still see Brian standing at the sink and marvel at this mysterious man-child. And the impossible task, it seems, is to know when and how to let go. In the morning, Brian stumbles down, silently fills the tea kettle. Guess I overreacted last night, I offer. No, you're right. I should have called. Brian looks up with eyes full of tenderness. I'm sorry, Mom. He comes over and wraps his arms around me. I didn't mean to cause you so much pain. Well, what you did was very inconsiderate. All I wanted to know was that you were home safe. But I've changed my mind. You're not grounded. Brian ponders this as he brings his tea to the table. No, I was wrong. I'm grounded. Want to fight about it? He props his muscular arm on the table. Arm wrestle ya? No way. I'm grounded, he says matter-of-factly. Okay, you're grounded. Then we're good? He asks. Yes, we're good.